Hi everyone, welcome back. And today we're going to be showing you how to create a code app from scratch in today's world, because we showed you this 7 months ago and things have changed massively. So you need to get up to date with it. And Josh, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. Lots has changed, hasn't it, in the past 7 months since we last showed this. So what a better time than to show where it's at now and what's changed and how to get started with everything. So I think the best thing to do first and foremost is to look at the documentation and see what's going on over there. So let's take a quick look at that and look at the prerequisites as to what we would need. Now, if you go to the overview link for Code Apps, we'll include that in the description in the video below. You've got an overview of what Code Apps is, obviously features, whatnot. But if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the prerequisites here, what you actually need to get started building code apps. The things that you need is Visual Studio Code being the first thing. That's going to allow you to build your code, do everything you need to do there for code apps. The other thing is Node.js. Charles, do you want to just quick brief overview of what Node.js is?
Yeah, Node.js is basically a way to run JavaScript locally on your machine, your laptop, your PC, whatever you're using. So it gives you the ability to develop the app locally on your machine before you actually send it off to Power Apps.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. So you'll need that. And then you'll need the Power Apps CLI, which is the command line interface for Power Apps Power Platform to run elements of code and interface with the Power Platform itself.
So with the Power Apps CLI, it still says that that's a prerequisite, but we know that they're changing over to this new npm way of doing your commands. So I believe when the new npm way comes into play, and it's generally available because it's in preview at the moment, then Power Apps CLI will be removed from that list. And also the point on like Visual Studio Code, you don't have to use Visual Studio Code, do you? Like you could just build your code app in Claude Code or Codex or whatever you want to use for it. Or the new GitHub app is apparently really good. So then, yeah, you don't need Visual Studio Code either. So really, it's kind of at the point now where it's basically Node.js and then whatever you want to use to build it.
Yeah, so there's a bit more of a mere suggestion rather than hard and fast prerequisites now, I guess. But yeah, it's still good to know. And I guess if you're using this for the first time, you probably won't go wrong making sure that those three things there are installed. But yeah, quite right. It looks like npm is going to be the way forward with everything. Worth getting that up and running as well and going down that route. A lot of what we'll show today will probably be using the npm CLI as well. The next thing, and this catches me out every single time I create a new environment, Charles, I think it catches you out as well, is enabling code apps on your Power Platform environment. And that's really easy to do. It's listed here, but effectively you just need to go into your environment within the Power Platform, navigate down to features, and then just select enable code apps on. As we've also found out, it's not an immediate change all the time. Sometimes it takes a couple of minutes. Sometimes it can take 15 minutes, other times half an hour. So, don't hedge your bets on it being done straight away. So yeah, make sure that's on. You need Power Apps premium licenses to obviously run the app. You don't need it to develop from what I'm aware of, but yeah, just something to keep in mind. And I think we've covered all of the basics there, haven't we, Charles?
Yeah. And there are less limitations than the last time we did it. So that's good as well.
Once we've got our prereqs, we can see that under the What's New tab, there is a quick start with the npm CLI, which is what we're going to reference today, because this is what's going to be used in the future and going forward. And it's actually a better experience when creating code apps, in my opinion. So it's a good way to start learning and scaffolding a code app using the npm CLI instead of the PAC CLI instead. So we'll run through this. You can see the prereqs there. We've need get as something else that wasn't listed if you're using repositories, which you should be. And then we're going to go through and just follow the steps to create a project, install the dependencies, run the app locally so we can actually see it up and running. And then we're going to build and push the app to Power Platform so we can see it running in the Power Platform endpoint as if it was a Power Platform app, by which point it will be. So let's dive into that.
So for this, we're going to be using the Vite template because it's the Quickstart. And that Vite template basically gets you up and running with a React app, right? But as we've talked about in previous videos, you can use any JavaScript that you want. So you could use Vue.js or some other framework, or you could use vanilla JavaScript, which would be quite exciting, huh? Which we did once. But yeah, for the purposes of the demo, we're using the Vite starter, which is a React app.
Yeah, lots of different options there. It's good to know that you're not kind of shoehorned by the technology, which is great. So first things first, what we're looking at here is a fresh VS Code window that I've got open. I've got Claude code installed through the extensions here, and I've got a fresh terminal window open as well. And I've opened a new terminal and I've navigated to a folder that I have created called annual leave. So I want to scaffold my code app within the annual leave folder locally on my machine at this moment in time. So we'll run through that and see it will create the magic behind the scenes to get that up and running for us. So the first command we need is the npx-dget command, which we'll run here. You can see it, the npx-dget, and there's a link there, and then it says my app. And I'm actually going to change that to annual leave instead, so it makes more sense for the video. And we're going to run that, and there's a couple of questions there. And then I'm just going to cd into that annual leave app.
And for people who don't know, cd just stands for change directory.
So I've changed my directory into annual leave now that that's been run. And next up is to install the dependencies. So again, I'm going to run the npm install command, and it's going to install the Power Apps CLI, Power Apps tools, and a couple other bits and pieces that I need. So I'm going to copy that and paste that in there and run all of that. And we might get a few warnings. Generally, these are not to worry about, but general recommendations is if you are worried about it, just maybe have a little bit of a search into it to make sure it's not doing anything untoward, so to speak, if there's any concern with that.
It's just the typical Microsoft thing of using packages that are no longer maintained.
So you can see there, it's installed all the packages. And Charles, what's a package? You want to just give a brief kind of overview as to what they are?
Yeah, so when we talk about NPM, it stands for Node Package Manager. And that's a way of managing all of the different packages. And a package itself is basically just some code. So it's some code that's been put on the internet where people can then download it into their projects very easily. And it will be containing some JavaScript, essentially.
Thank you. So yeah, good to know. So we've run that. Everything's installed now. And next up, we are going to initialize the code app. And we do that by running the PA app init command. I'm just going to run that now. So you can see here, now it's wanting me to provide the environment ID. So that is the Power Apps or Power Platform environment ID of the environment that I have. So I'm just going to grab that and paste that in. So I've got the environment ID there. I'm just going to hit return, and we can see there where it's opened a new tab. You might not see that, but I see that. And it wants me to provide a display name for the app. I'm just going to call that annual leave.
So just to tell people what's happened between 7 months ago and now. So before 7 months ago, we were using PAC CLI, which was a separately installed thing. And with PAC CLI, we would authenticate usually via the extension in VS Code. So we'd normally install it via VS Code and then we'd manage all of it through there. So it was an extra step to it. But now with this new NPM PA app, with that, it asks us to sign in. We sign in via the browser, and then that's the way that it authenticates. So it's a different method, but
different mechanism.
It's a nice process, right?
Yeah, I'd say it's a lot more smoother, a lot more kind of cohesive this way. It feels a lot more simpler as well than having to kind of dabble in some of the PAC CLI commands. So we've run that. We've given the display name for the app as well. And you can see there, it's created a power.config.json for annual leave. And we can see there's a folder here within my annual leave folder called annual leave. And it's scaffolded all of these files that will basically be used for the code app. But the power.config.json is quite an important one, isn't it, Charles? Do you want to give a quick kind of explanation as to what that actually is?
Yeah, essentially it's the configuration for the code app, and it's a generated file. So it's a file that we should not be changing. But as we do things like add data sources, those data sources will get listed inside of this power.config.json. Like you can see, we've got connection references and database references. So those will get generated into it as we start adding them to our app.
So moving back to the commands, we've run those commands there. Next up, we need to run the app locally. So we'll do that now. Got a command here. I'll just paste that in. And again, this experience differs from, 7 months ago when it was a different command to run. Now, you do PA app run, and it's going to give you a local plate URL, which if we click, we should hopefully see this running. So I've clicked on that link. It's opened a new window for us, and there's a code app running. It's as simple as that. Within, 5 minutes, we've got a nice code app up and running, scaffolded and ready to go. And yeah, okay, this is just a templated app, but we can see if we run that, count is 0, I can click on that. It's increasing our count. It's pretty interesting, fully responsive code app within Power Platform. You don't need to use any AI tools for this. And I would probably suggest, maybe agree, Charles, that maybe to save on tokens, to do all of this part manually anyway. Would you agree?
I prefer to do it manually. To be honest, I don't have that much trust in the plugin that Microsoft provides because they do tend to make mistakes with it and maybe don't keep it up to date. Speaking of which, with this template that has been installed that we've copied, it is using an old version of Code App still. So it did get updated at some point not too long ago. But things are changing so quickly that it's gone out of date again by something like 7 versions, I think.
Yeah, so the versions of everything that you use, it's really important to make sure that they are up to date, because you can't rely on Microsoft having them all up to date for you when you run all this stuff. So definitely something to keep in mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have got our app scaffolded. We've got a simple app running, but that's maybe not the fun part, is it? The fun part's actually building an app. So, Charles, you mentioned plugins there as well, and not something to gloss over, because there are a lot of plugins that Microsoft have developed for these tools that we're using, and other ones as well. So do you want to give us a bit more information as to what plugins are? Why do we need to worry or even care about them when we're building code apps, for example?
Yeah. So hopefully everyone's heard of Skills. That I think is quite widely known and talked about now. A plugin is essentially the next level up from a skill. So a plugin can contain multiple skills. It can also contain agents, like custom agents, and hooks and scripts and all other kinds of things like that. So a plugin is basically like a package for all of your AI stuff that you want to be able to provide to an agent. Microsoft have provided multiple plugins. And if we just look a bit further down the page, you'll see that we've got a plugin for code apps, of course, but we've got a plugin for Power Pages, for model-driven apps. You can now build a model-driven app from scratch using a plugin. And there are plugins for Copilot Studio and so on and so forth. MCP apps, mobile apps. Microsoft are releasing them at a crazy rate. But the one that we're focusing on for today is the one for code apps. And it's quite magical, really, with what it can do. And so we'll show you.
Yeah, so this is I think the unlock, isn't it, for code apps, is if we didn't have the AI side of things available, you would probably spend a considerable amount of time building a code app, say, versus a Canvas app or something like that, which maybe a lot of people watching have historically built and are used to. But having AI using skills and the plugin side of things really opens the doors for everyone who isn't a developer, pro developer, to build code apps. So that makes it really accessible, which is great, because it means we can build production ready apps in a fraction of the time without all the workarounds and limitations of things like Canvas apps, right? So this becomes really nice.
Yeah, I would say that the plugin is really good for people who aren't professional developers, who aren't aware of agentic engineering processes. So it's basically for more vibe coding, essentially. So yeah, you say production ready. Yeah, production ready from a vibe coding perspective, but not really to the true professional level. And it's also great for proof of concepts. Like you can get up and running so quickly with it. So I think the plugin here is really good as a starting point or for proof of concepts. If you want to create something big and robust, it's probably not the best thing to use because it won't follow your practices.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as good as this is, you don't have to use it. And if you've maybe, got experience with, AI development, engineering, all that side of things, you might have your own workflows and configurations that you'd rather use. But yeah, definitely for the more, should we call them citizen developer kind of orientated side of things, as this works a treat to get up and running, maybe prior to handing it over to someone else just to verify or just do kind of last kind of mile type stuff. So shall we run through a plugin and actually try and build something with it, or just showcase how it works, do you think?
Yeah, sounds great.
Perfect.
And if anyone's confused about how to get the plugin installed, there are installation instructions there. And you can, if you're using it with Claude Code, you can always ask Claude Code, I want to install this plugin. Can you help me? And it will help you.
Yeah, it makes it so easy with AI if you're using something like Claude to do. We've already ran this. You don't need to see spinners and loading screens. We've already got this installed, and we've specifically installed the Code Apps skill as well for the plugin. So that's good to go. So I'll head back over to VS Code. Okay, so we are back into VS Code now. I'm going to open up a fresh terminal and I'm going to run the Claude command interface. And from here, I am going to run the plugins. Okay, yeah, so we're in VS Code now, and obviously we've got the plugin installed. What you'll notice, if I do / it brings me up a list of all of the things I can do within the Claude command line interface. If I type / code, we should see the Code Apps commands come up, which is really good. You can play around with these, see which one's which. The documentation lists, what they do as well, and gives a good description. In our case, we want to do Code Apps create app. So I'll scroll down to that one and hit enter, and it's going to go and create a code app for us. We've obviously already scaffolded a code app. You would probably do this before scaffolding it manually if you're using AI. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, this is a good way to get going without having to do all the scaffolding side of things. So it's going to ask some questions, and it's just up to us to basically direct AI and building us an annual leave code app at this point, isn't it? So we'll do that. Okay, so yeah, it's asked me what I want to build. So I want to build an annual leave app.
So I guess something that we should point out to people if they are using the Claude Code CLI is that, where it says manual mode on at the bottom, that maybe they don't want to manually approve everything. So there is this option, if you press Shift and Tab, you can move it onto automatic, or I think it's automatic, something like that. And then you don't have to approve as many commands. But of course, that comes with a little bit of extra risk.
So I've given a really simple prompt, very similar to our one prompt that we've done in the past. Probably not a lot of information. If you're doing this for yourself, be as descriptive as possible, I would say, because the less ambiguity you leave, the more better your app's going to be. So we'll do this and let it run through, and it might ask some clarifying questions. It might ask, in my case, for some approval. So I'm just going to go and do all of that for now. So our first question that AI is coming back and asking us is, how should the app store our data? You can see that it's recommending Dataverse, which is great. It's also suggesting SharePoint, but I think we'll go for Dataverse in this instance. And then what should the app track alongside leave requests is the next question, where it should track annual entitlement and running balance. I think that's fair. Let's go with that. And what are the key screens views you want? Calendar view and booking form. I think that's good. And any theme preference to the app. And I've noticed that there's definitely seems to be a preference for dark themes now, particularly when using this plugin, but you don't have to go with that. We'll go with a dark theme in this instance, though.
Yeah, Microsoft have still left this in the plugin where it's wanting to do dark mode every time, which I really don't understand the logic behind that, because it typically, if you're building a Power App, you're building it for a business or an organization where you're unlikely to want to build a business application that is dark mode first. It's a bit of a strange one, But also, I think something that they're missing a trick with here is, shouldn't it be asking, where are the brand guidelines? Where's my guidance on the design? Because it doesn't know anything about your logo and your colors and your fonts. It should know that information before it builds anything.
Yeah, and that's where the gaps start to show a little bit with this plugin, isn't it? It's not really tailored enough to those kind of real requirements that could make these kind of, I guess, business ready.
Yeah.
So to speak. So yeah, it's good to point out. But yeah, the dark theme is certainly an odd choice, I would say. Maybe it's because we were asking for dark mode in Canvas apps for so long that they decided, here you go, you can all have it now in code apps by default.
Now they're force feeding it to us.
Exactly. So anyway, Claude's asking us to review our answers. I'm happy with that. I'm going to submit, and it's going to go and do everything for us now, more or less. So we'll let that run through. Follow-on question here is just around Power Platform or environment type questions, or what the app should be called. Annual leave track is fine. What the environment ID is, well, I've got that from earlier, but I'll just get that again and paste it in so we've got it.
So one of the things I find interesting about this is you've got 3 different answers, basically. So I'll provide it now, but then number 3 is type something. So couldn't you just paste it into type something and that would be it?
Yeah, should we do that in this case and see what happens? So let's do that, see what it does. And how should dealing time will work? We'll just keep it really simple for this and do a single configurable value, and we'll just submit those answers, and that's going to run through.
So place your bets now. How long is it going to take to build this app?
We'll keep an eye on the time, because obviously we'll cut this so that the audience isn't waiting like we are, and we'll tell you how long it takes. Yeah. It's come back with a plan for us, which is quite interesting. So basically this plan is the plan for the build effectively. It's got the context, it's got the tables that it wants to build, what the implementation steps are, how it's going to verify that, and any remaining workflow steps that are needed as well. I'd say it's quite a simple.
Can I point something out?
Yeah.
So at the top of the plan, it recognizes that we already scaffolded a code app.
Interesting.
So what does it say? It says, but it's still the unmodified default template. The plan picks up from step 6. So it's not actually going to scaffold the app. It's going to utilize that one that's already scaffolded, I believe.
That's good to know. Yeah, I didn't think it would do that, but it's good it's picked it up. But yeah, I would say it's quite a simple plan. Any comments on the plan itself, Charles?
Something that I didn't notice from the plan is anything to do with a solution. So I'm curious, is it going to use a solution? Is it going to ask you, can I put this in a solution? Or is it just going to default to the default solution or no solution at all? But yeah, aside from that, I think it looks pretty good. It's got the Dataverse tables. It's building components, which is really important for reusability. Yeah, I can't necessarily see a particular problem with it.
Cool. Well, let's run it through and see what happens. So yes, and use auto mode, and hopefully it's going to use that plan now to build the app for us.
So we're letting this run through at the moment. And one of the things we've noticed is it's using this AZ command, which is for the Azure or Azure CLI. Basically, that means that you need to have that installed before running this. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to use it. And actually, it's come up with a question about that, hasn't it, Josh?
Yeah, it's saying that's expired because the refresh token has been active for 90 days, so it needs to re-authenticate. So yeah, I'll just log in now and get that sorted.
So what that means is that before using the Code Apps plugin, I would highly recommend installing the Azure CLI first so that you have that available to the plugin. Because if it's not available to the plugin, I'm actually not sure what it's going to default to.
Yeah, so what's it saying there? Do I need to use with the exclamation mark as well? It suggests I do.
You shouldn't need to, but yeah, I guess go for that.
New terminal.
Seems a bit strange to use the exclamation mark. I don't know what that does. Maybe it makes it private or something.
Yeah, I don't know, but interesting. But anyway, it's logged in, so we can come back to there.
Type in number 1 and press enter to select it. Yeah, okay. So this is why instead of using the plugin, because I don't want it to necessarily use the Azure CLI, because I work with people who don't have the Azure CLI installed. So I created just a tiny JavaScript script where they can use the authentication that's already created with the PA app command. So it means that you can just then use the Dataverse web API. It's much simpler and more people can use it. So I feel like Microsoft should have gone that way instead of getting people to install the Azure CLI. And in fact, like not even telling people that that was a prerequisite.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing actually, isn't it? How it hasn't even called that out in the docs. So yeah, and it looks like the other thing here is the publisher prefix. It doesn't seem to be doing anything with that either. So
Yeah, it would be nice if it asked you which publisher would you like to use.
because that's important for solutions, isn't it? And so far, it hasn't mentioned anything really about solutions, which I was hoping it might have done. Might still do it.
So it does say there, this looks like a pre-built solution already in the environment, because it's noticed that you're using an environment where you already have an annual leave solution of sorts.
Yes. So that's good to point out, actually, that we obviously run a demo before for annual leave. So it's picked that up in my environment, which is quite cool. So rather than building things from scratch, it's saying, well, can I just reuse these existing tables? And yeah, sure, why not? It doesn't matter to me, so I'll just do that.
Maybe for future demos, it shouldn't be an annual leave app.
Yeah. Any suggestions for demos, and we can take them on board. Okay, so 8 minutes, 25 seconds later, it's given us a local version of the app to test. So let's copy that link and see if it's maybe near what an annual leave app should look like, and then we can push it to Power Platform. So let me do that.
I'll just say here as well. So although that took 8 minutes and 25 seconds, that was using Sonnet on medium reasoning. And so your mileage may vary, of course, because you could use a quicker model that won't do as good of a job. You could use a slower model that will think more deeply and potentially give you a better result.
So yeah, it's created an annual leave tracker for us. It's pretty interesting. It's given us a calendar. We can book leave and some basic functionality. So as a first pass, without too many clarifying questions, it looks okay. I can, start date, end date. There's the full day or half day as well, and notes. So that's good. So yeah, it seemingly works pretty well. The only thing we haven't done here is actually push this to Power Platform. So should we do that next, do you think?
Yeah, we can do. I'm curious about whether it's persisting the data at the moment. So is that actually stored in Dataverse? If you refresh the app, is that still there, the one that you've booked? It is. So it's saving it in Dataverse. And then, of course, you can edit the entitlement, and I'm assuming that will also save that. So it's on 25. Yeah.
TA, then refresh.
And if you refresh?
Yeah, it's persisting. That's cool.
Very good. Yeah.
Nice. So let's go back to VS Code and push it to Power Platform. Okay, cool. So yeah, it looks good to me. So let's say it looks good, get it deployed. So let's just do that now.
So even though you didn't specifically choose the skill for deploying, you can just say that and it knows to pick up that skill for it.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually, isn't it? It's not just the one skill that we're using. It's aware of the other skills that are available to it to be able to run these things. And they run in tandem and, like pair programming effectively for the agents.
And it's updating the memory bank, which is a Claude Code feature. So it's keeping a memory as to what you've been working on. Actually, no, I say that. There is a Claude Code feature for the memory bank, but specifically for this plugin, they've got their own memory bank for it as well. As you can see there in green, where it's writing this markdown file that says what's happened and what might need to happen next and things like that.
Nice. So it looks like it's live now on our environment. So I should be able to go in and click on this link here, which I will do. And we'll also see it in our environment as well. So yeah, there it is there. You can see it's the same app. The URL is slightly different because it's in Power Apps now, which is nice. And if we go to make the Power Apps all being well, we should be able to see this. So let's go and check that now within our app. So we're in our environment in Power Platform now, my developer environment. If I go into apps, I'm hoping we can see that is an annual leave app that has been deployed 2 minutes ago. If we run that, we should see the same one that we just created. So there we go. But it's not a solution, is it? Do you just want to give a comment on the solution or solutionizing of the app, Charles?
Yeah. So again, this kind of goes back to my point about the plugin not necessarily doing things the way that we want it to. So because it's a plugin that's managed by Microsoft, you could, I suppose, take the plugin, modify it yourself, but then you're not going to get Microsoft's updates. It's a bit of a weird position because the plugin really isn't ready yet for prime time, I would say. So yeah, you're getting things that are not put in a solution. There was something else that we noticed when it was building the app as well. So we are using the Vite starter template. With the Vite starter template, it comes with Tailwind CSS, which is a way of writing the styling essentially. So it's this little package that you can use to write CSS in a kind of more modular way. So it should be using that, but our agent went off and started building standard, like raw vanilla CSS instead. So the plugin didn't obviously tell it, we're using Tailwind, please continue to use Tailwind. So it's these kind of things that are the reason why I'd say, yeah, this is great for proof of concepts and for getting started and playing around with code apps, but the plugin isn't really good for reaching like high quality, robust production level apps.
Yeah. It's a really good point. And if you do want to know about solutionizing your code app, you can do it with commands with the npm CLI now, which is nice. And within the docs, you can see that. Yeah, you can find it here under deploy and monitor and application lifecycle management. And there's a command there. They haven't updated it though, have they?
No. So it says PAC code, but it should say PA app. But it just hasn't been updated because they're keeping all of the PA app stuff in the what's new because it's still technically in preview. Now, even though it's in preview, I'd say it's absolutely fine to use it for production because it's a command line code. You're running a command. It's not dangerous. I'd be completely fine with that. And we would expect it to be generally available, I don't know, within the next month or so, all things being well.
So that has been an overview of how to get started with code apps as of August 2026. So we're 7 months on from when we first did it. A lot has changed, but I think for the better on the most of it. Yeah, if you found this useful, do leave a comment below. Please like, subscribe, all the usual stuff, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.